All right, so in today's video, we're going to be completing a value scale, but using color instead of just using our shading techniques. So I've got some vocabulary words over here. We've got tint, tone, shade, and then complementary color mixing. So tint is where you are mixing a color with white. Tone is where you're mixing that color with gray. And then shade is where you're mixing that color with black. The complementary color mixing is where you are choosing the color opposite the color you've chosen. So I've chosen red violet, and I'm going to use its opposite on the color wheel. So the color that sits across from it on the color wheel, which is yellow green. So you're going to need a complementary color pair like this, and then one of these colors you're going to do the different values, so tint, tone, and shade. Each of these here, so you've got 4 rows with 5 boxes in them. This first box is 100% your hue or your color. This box here is 75% your hue and 25% whatever the value or other color is over here. Then this middle one is 50-50. This box here is 25% your hue and then 75% whatever is in this box. And then you've got 100% either your white, gray, black, or the complement. So we're going to start with tint, and again, that one is mixing your color with white. So you're going to fill in your whole box. We're going to practice also using good color pencil technique here, so we're going to make sure that it's not streaky. We're just going to fill it in nice and solid. If you need to, you can do a couple of different layers on this, going in different directions. You can layer the different directions you're doing as well, and you can also do this in circles to try to make sure it fills up nice, as long as you have a nice solid color when you're finished. And if you want, you can do that with all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with all of them. All right, so I've got all of my colors finished here. So this is the first color I'm going to use. So we wanted that to be the same one. That way you can see how your color can change in value and how it changes when you mix your complement in. So we're going to finish tint first and then tone, shade, and all the way down. So what we're going to do, we've got the 75-25 box. So that is 75% your color and then 25% the white for tint. So I'm going to put in a really light layer. You want to be pretty even with your color pencil pressure, so don't press too hard. If you press too hard, it gets too waxy. You won't be able to mix your colors together. So you want to make sure you're doing this really light, and you're going to mix your colors using the layering that we're doing. All right, so I've got one layer here, and I'm going to do another layer in an opposite direction to try to blend again some of these layers together and just kind of get some more color on my page. And remember, we want to fill the box with our value here. All right, so next I'm going to take my white, and because I went side to side just now, I'm going to go up and down with it because this is going to help to blend my values together. And I'm not pressing hard here. I'm just allowing the white to kind of coat over those 2 layers of color. And I may go back in and add another layer of color on top of that because we don't want it to go too light too quickly. It's the same thing that we did with our value demo. If you go too light too quickly, then you're going to run out of values that you can use. Okay, so I'm going to go back in and then finish this off with a layer of my color. All right, so there's my second value. You just want it to be a touch lighter than your first one. So next we're going to go on to the 50-50. So this is just your color, but with more white added into it. So just a lighter tint of it. So again, you're going to start with a layer of your color, just very, very lightly. All right, so I've got a layer of color down. I'm gonna go back in with my white. I'm probably gonna do more than one layer of the white here, just so it can look a little bit lighter than my second value. And again, you want to be careful you're not going too light too quickly. So you'll notice a lot of people when they're doing this, what will probably ask, you know, why are we using the white color pencil when you could just lighten your pressure with your color pencil to create that tint? And the reason is that white can be used as a blender. So you don't have to use white as a blender. There are things called colorless blenders out there, but if you don't have access to that, a white color pencil, which generally comes in all color pencil sets, will give you access to something like that. And so this one, I'm just trying to get a good middle value. So this is gonna take some back and forth, and I think I'm about there. One more coat of this white should do. All right, so now we're on to the 2575, and I'm just gonna do one very light layer of my color. And then I'm gonna layer the white on top. And this one has to be the lightest tint of the color because that last box is just solid white, and we're not gonna color that in with the white color pencil. All right, so I've got my even layer of tone down. I'm gonna go over it with my color pencil, the white color pencil here. Try to blend some of these marks out. All right, so remember, we're not gonna color this in with the white color pencil because that's just kind of redundant. The paper's already white, but you should have 5 distinct values and they should be getting lighter. So it looks like you're just, as you're going, it's just getting lighter and lighter and lighter. All right, so the next one we're gonna do is with gray. So this box over here will be shaded in fully gray, but we're gonna start with the 7525. So again, you're going to put down a couple layers of color. You want it to be even. It's the same kind of technique that we did in the value scale above, but this is because you are mixing color. This is going to take some eyeballing, so if it looks like it's getting too dark or too light too fast, then just go back in with your other color. Okay, so the tricky part about doing tone is that as your color gets more and more gray added into it, it doesn't get lighter or darker unless that gray is a lighter or darker value than your color, and this gray is not. It's the same value. So it doesn't get lighter or darker than the original color, it just gets less saturated, which means it's less intense, less bright. So the more gray you add, again, value won't change generally, but the intensity, the saturation will. So you're not looking for your color to be lighter or darker as you go, you're looking for it to be less bright. So in this last box here, you're just gonna fill it with the gray like I said earlier. So then as you can see, once you've got all 5 boxes filled in, it just looks like your color is getting less and less bright, so more and more gray from left to right. All right, so next we're gonna move on to shade. Now shade you have to be really careful with because black is a really, really strong pigment, and a little bit of black can go a really long way to creating a value. So you're gonna have to do way more color in your percentages than you would normally. You still wanna keep the same idea, like this middle one is supposed to be half and half, but it's more likely this one's gonna be a true half and half mixture because of how strong black is. So you're gonna have to be using a lot more color, especially if you picked a color that is a light pigment like yellow. And of course, if you've picked yellow, then your complement's gonna be purple. So just keep that in mind as you go through here, that you're gonna have to use a lot more color to balance out how strong black is. So I'm just going in here, I'm barely touching the paper with my black color pencil. And as you can see, it's really darkening up that color, just really, really fast. So I'm only gonna do one layer of the black here, and I'm probably gonna do a bunch of other layers of color on top of it just to try to mix in that black. But as you go, your color should look like it's just getting darker the more boxes it goes to the right. All right, so as I said earlier, you're gonna have to use a lot more color. So that middle box where it's supposed to look like a half and half mixture, I probably did 6 layers of my color and like 2 layers of my black. So again, the black goes a really long way because of how strong it is. So just keep that in mind as you're going. All right, so your last box should be that solid color, that solid black, whatever color you mixed into your first color. And as you go, it should just look like it gets darker and darker the farther towards the right side of the value scale that it gets. Okay, so the last value scale we're gonna do is the complementary color mixing. So that's when you're mixing your 2 opposite colors. So I've got the color that I started with, and I've got that color's complement. So these are opposites. And what that means with complements, again, they're across each other on the color wheel. They don't have any other color like that in their mixture. So like this is yellow, green, and this is red, violet. So yellow is the opposite of purple, green is the opposite of red. So these are tertiary colors, they'll be opposite each other. So we're gonna do this last value scale a little bit different than we did the 3 before, since we're mixing into a color. So we're going to do the end boxes first, and we're gonna work our way towards the middle. So let's go ahead and fill in that last box all the way on the other side with the complementary color. Okay, so now that one's filled in, and this is still the same idea. So like this is still 75 left color, 25 right color. This is still 25 left color, 75 right color, and this is a half and half mixture. But we wanna do these 2, the second and the 4th box, before we do the middle one, because we wanna make sure that our colors are mixing appropriately. This color here should have more of my right color in it, and it should look like it have more. So we're gonna start with the second box, and then we're gonna move over to the 4th box. And once we get those 2 boxes, we should be able to kind of eyeball where a middle mixture is going to be. And that's why we do 2nd and 4th first.